Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Super Feast podcast. Today we have Laura Clemmons, who is a certified herbalist and graduate of the Rocky Mountain Center for Botanical Studies. She studied under Dr. Gu Ding in traditional Chinese medicine at the Shenlong Center in Philadelphia, and she also studied Mayan traditional healing practices and uterine care with Miss Beatrice Waite in Belize, Anne Drucker in Boulder, and Rosita Arvego, who was the founder of the Arvego style. She held an apprenticeship with Linda White Dove in herbal medicine and an apprenticeship with Claudia Rose Wolfe in traditional North American Indigenous healing practices, as well as an apprenticeship with Pei Fen Yang in Chinese medicine in Boulder. And Laura believes that all these medical modalities are lifelong learning processes, and that the more education we have, the more tools we have in our toolbox, which I completely resonate with. And she also brings a really finely tuned sense of intuition to her work that combines all of these healing techniques and modalities. So Laura sees clients directly, but also does workshops, retreats, that kind of stuff. And I had the pleasure of meeting you at the American Herbalist Guild conference, Laura, in, I don't even remember, 2017 maybe? Yeah. And that was up in Oregon. And I remember doing a workshop on vaginal steaming, and I think you did a little bit on the Mayan healing touch as well. And yeah, it was just such a really profound and beautiful learning for me, and one that I took home myself, and postpartum especially used it. And I remember you saying, I think you said it in that workshop, that it was such an amazing healing tool for postpartum care. But in general, right, it's just such a great practice for women to be doing, regularly. Is that something? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is something that women should be doing regularly. It's massaging ourselves, massaging our womb and our digestion, and really just helping to keep circulation going. And Miss Beatrice Waite, who was my main teacher, she used to talk about, if you can do anything for yourself, one of the best things you could do for a daily practice is just rub your belly at night a little bit, massage yourself a little bit, and continue, because for us, for women, we're always holding everything there, right? We're always holding our emotions, our anxieties, our fears, right? And then digestion stops working. We get painful periods. So these things have a lot of course, physical reasons, but I'm also looking at the emotional reason too. And if we can help to massage ourselves, kind of feeling into those painful parts, in our bodies and our bellies every day, just going, I wonder what that's about, looking into that. That's one of the things that we can really do just to help so much, because isn't digestion one of the biggest issues that we're seeing, not just in women's health, but with health in general?
It's funny because I studied with Mantak Chia in Thailand, and his work is Chinesang, which is Taoist belly massage, basically, and involves, uterine care. But one of the big emphases he places is that at the end of the day, we want to empower the student to go home and do the massage themselves, so they don't have to come and see us anymore, and they're, able to take care of their own health. And to me, it's almost like redefining what self-care means, because so often it's like, have a bubble bath, or, do something kind of, no offense, but like superficial. And I think when we have these practices or these techniques available to us, where we can really, start to feel into, well, what are the patterns of tension that I create every day? What are the kind of, manifestations of symptoms that happen when I do have these kind of particular sensations or feelings in my body? It becomes a really beautiful kind of self-awareness practice. Is that what you see in your clients when you kind of start to teach them this stuff? Or?
Yeah. I actually feel the same way about seeing clients, and I want them to be empowered. I don't want them to have to come to me all the time and to see, although I love them and want to see everybody, but I want to see them get better through their own self-exploration. And so I do encourage that. And I do see people really start to take, especially women who come to me for fertility and want to get pregnant, because it is going to be up to them whether or not that happens. Now, sometimes, of course, there's not much anyone can do. There's something physical wrong, that it may be an abnormality or something like that. But a lot of what I do see with women who really want to take charge of their fertility and say yes to getting pregnant, yes to having a life come into their body. I see them bloom into someone who starts this self-exploration, whether it is spiritual or physical or through herbs or through even seeking other modalities. And I try to really empower people, women, or even men that I do see a lot of times when we are doing fertility. I encourage and I want to know, well, what's going on with your partner? What does that look like? You know, are they healthy? What's going on? You know, with that and putting it back into their hands. So.
Do you see like regular patterns with fertility in terms of, you know, I mean, so in Chinasang, because it comes from a Taoist tradition, we do look a lot at, you know, the organ energies and emotional kind of patterns that will create physical blocks. And, you know, I guess my teachers mapped out some of the common ones. But I wondered, from the kind of main tradition, are there kind of common blocks that we see that would affect things like fertility or digestion? Like in Chinese medicine, we would say, you know, excess worry and kind of anxiety would create a digestive issue. You know, we might see that if we have fear or something, we might create a blockage in the kidney channel, which might manifest as kind of, you know, a lack of being able to conceive or something like that. Or liver issues can affect the uterus. Is that sort of a similar thing, or is it? Do you guys have a little bit more of a, you know, I don't know. I don't know much about your practice, so I'd be very curious. Yeah. Wondering if it's a crossover or if it's quite separate.
Well, specifically with the uterine massage, we're looking at position of the uterus, and a lot of times we do find in an infertile moment where a woman is, for example, there was a couple and they'd been married about 7 years and they'd never been pregnant, not even on accident. She had never been pregnant before, and they were trying, and they had been trying for a few years. And so I think they weren't as serious about it at the time. And so then they went into looking at IVF and looking at this and looking at that. But right before going, she came to see me, and her uterus was actually off to the left and down. And I told her that, and I put it back in place. And she had cramps, and there's symptoms that we look at for if the uterus is out of place, if there's cramping, constipation, diarrhea, all these different things that can come into play. And she had some of those symptoms that told me that, yes, her uterus was a little tilted and down. So I felt it. I mean, it's once you practice more, you can actually feel really, really easily where the uterus is. And so we put it back into place, and she came back the following month and said, wow, you know, I'm feeling so much better. Like it just feels spacious down there. There's room down there. But also we had discussed what was going on in her life, and she was really feeling like she was very, very powerful in who she was as a career woman, and intelligent, beautiful, just this vivacious woman who was kind of bound to a culture that her mother-in-law and her family were really still kind of controlling and overseeing her love life, and why isn't there a baby yet, and those kinds of things. And I could see that she was having a hard time with it. So on an energetic level, we worked on that as well. But on the physical level, her uterus was to the side. So like we pulled it back, and we talked about those things. We worked on it. The month after her follow-up, she was actually pregnant. And that was her first time ever being pregnant. And so we just had a follow-up on the phone after that, again, talked about herbs and different things, because she was told that she had some thyroid, hypothyroidism, and wasn't really fully diagnosed. They went back and forth, hyper, hypo, they weren't sure. Her levels were a little wonky, and of course, too, the physical aspects of her body could be affecting that as well. Nutrition intake, that type of thing, insulin. So, but when we worked on her uterus, I was also working on just talking about how could she receive her voice again? How could she get her power back? Can she talk to her husband about this? What does that look like? And then doing some energy clearing. I mean, even something as simple as smudging, right? To help kind of change someone's outer energy, allowing things to release from them. And that massage also does that too. So in the Maya tradition, we really do look at the focus of where is the uterus and what kind of ailment is that causing, not just physically, but spiritually.
There's a couple of great things I'd love to pull out of that, because the first is that I think, like, a lot of people don't realize that, if they're having PMS symptoms and, like you're saying, like constipation, like the fascia of the uterus can actually attach to the fascia of the digestive system, can create all kinds of issues. So there's kind of these complex things that can be going on. And as you say, it can be as simple as the uterine position in the body. I mean, there's obviously many other possibilities, but I remembered you telling a story which made me giggle about your own flipped uterus after having one of your sons. Was that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? Because that makes me laugh.
Where my husband was like hitting my bottom. So I think it was, well, I've had my uterus flipped a couple times because I was a landscaper and did a lot of heavy lifting, and women tend to put heavy things on their belly. And that can tend to kind of push down and make the uterus flip. So I think the story that you're talking about is I guess it was just I think I had just gotten pregnant with I actually have a daughter. I have a daughter and a son.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay. No. And and I was pregnant, but my uterus was flipped. And my teacher, she was still alive at that time, and she had told me. And it's really imperative to flip the uterus back over because of all the nutrition. I mean, that is sometimes when the uterus is flipped and it's pinching, nutrition can't get to the womb, and so the miscarriage can happen. And so she would actually say it's almost impossible to have a flipped uterus and really carry full term, because you have to get the uterus to come back over. So I was determined. So there's this exercise that you can do where you put your hands or you put your elbows and on the ground, and you touch your knees and your butt in the air, and then you have your partner, whoever that is, come behind you and bop your butt and hit like the fatty part of your butt. And it's just so enjoyable. People just love to do that, It's so enjoyable. And it doesn't hurt when they're doing it, but then my husband kind of integrated in shaking my hips and doing all this stuff. He was like really wanted to get it over. But when I was pregnant, he wasn't that aggressive with it. And actually, because when it flipped, I literally felt it go back over.
Because it would have been all yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. It was heavy, and I could feel it. I went, oh. And then I had like just a tiny pooch starting after that.
Yeah.
So when you're pregnant, it's a little easier to see when that happens. But that is something that you can do, because it when your uterus is flipped, there's a possibility that it could sit on your colon, and that causes so many digestive issues. Yeah.
And I think people don't maybe conceptualize the uterus, but it's kind of like on little bungee cords is how we got taught, like those little tendons or ligaments. Yeah, that are running across. And I think that's just a good visual for people, because then they can really get a sense that, it's quite a mobile organ in the body. I think we tend to maybe think of organs as being static once they're in their place, and maybe don't realize that they do move around and are kind of in fluid sats. Well, like I always imagine, we're basically bags of fluid in fascia, so it's kind of incredible to think about you know, all the possibilities. And if we get too dry in terms of, you know, we get adhesions or sticky, you know, stickiness and stuff, we can
Right,
you know, issues.
yeah.
Issues. And so I know, like I know that the main tradition has the self-care kind of component. So I remember you doing that in the workshop, like you showed us how to do, you know, some massage and stuff. And I know, like it was quite different to Chinasang, which I liked. I thought it was just such a, but I think the kind of foundations are probably similar. But do you guys also like work on the digestive system as well? You work on kind of, you know, the liver and all of, do you do all that sort of organ massage as well? Or
We do, yes. We do a digestive massage as well. And and it's hard to do for yourself. And when I do teach my clients or people to come, I actually show them how to massage their digestion with the round part of a wooden spoon.
Going scooping.
And scooping and kind of getting in, and if you feel pain, holding it till you hear a gurgle, and doing things like that. And actually, Hannah Kroger, in one of her books, she actually talks about that too, to massage your digestion with a wooden spoon.
That's cool.
Yeah,
we might have
I like it.
Or something for people. Yeah, I mean, I guess the general flow from my memory was like from your practice was the sort of uterine care was scooping up toward the belly button, and the digestive was scooping down. Following the natural curves of the ribs and the pelvis, respectively. That's generally kind of what you would suggest?
Yes, starting at your pelvic bone. And going up towards the navel, but not past the navel when you're doing your uterine care. And then from the right side and then from the left side, massaging and just holding your hands like holding your thumbs together, like kind of making a cross and then holding them together, making your hands look like a little hoe or a scoop is the best way I can describe. And then you start at your pelvic bone, and you're laying on your back with a pillow under your knee. And then you start, and you kind of tilt your pelvis under a little, because if you're doing it for yourself, you know how deep you can go or not, and just scooping up towards the navel and then diagonally, and then just doing it 7 times. So diagonally 7 times one way, straight 7 times, and then diagonally the other way 7 times.
Do you use oil, or, I mean, I do. Feel like that's an obvious question, but
I actually use an oil that I make that we were taught how to make in Belize, and in Belize they actually cook their oils in the oven, and they don't do it stovetop, and it's very, very low heat, and they cook it for days.
Like Ayurveda.
Sorry?
I think Ayurveda does that as well.
Does that as well?
Yeah, in the stone crops.
Yeah, and I use plants from my garden. I use plants that show up around me. And so if I'm working, actually even in an office that I've been at over a year, and I've been going out harvesting the plants, asking them to come in on my session, because I do a lot of fresh plant work with my sessions. I'll look to see who shows up. Maybe Violet shows up this year that wasn't there before, and I will use her in my oil. And so having like a special oil that I make once a year or once every 6 months, depending, for my clients, and especially using the plants that are around where I'm using treatment.
I love that. And I remember we talked before, and you were saying how you're also a bit of an opportunistic forager, as in you pop down to other states and get some sort of local or endemic plants from that region. And I think there's like something we really encourage people to do is to try and tune into what's kind of available in their region, but also, I mean, my mum raised me as a forager, is probably an inverted commas way of saying it. We used to steal plants all the time, respectfully, but like we would harvest as we went. But yeah, I do think it's a really beautiful thing to start to connect in with the plant kingdom. And I loved that you used, she when referring to violet, because we really, like the herbs we work with are in the Taoist tonic category, but we refer to them as, male or female. They all have personalities and energetics to us that are, after years of use, you do start to kind of get a sense for their personalities, I suppose. Is that sort of what you
Yeah.
experienced working with herbs?
Yeah, and violet actually was one of the very first plants that waved to me. And so I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but sometimes when we're out in nature, the plants will just start moving. There's no breeze, but they'll just start waving at you. And my husband and I were dating, and we were on a walk, and I said, ah! I said to him, the fox moved. And so I said to him, do you want to say something cool? And he was also working at the herb shop too. He was very into plants and stuff. And he said yes. So we walked by this patch of violets that I always went to. And I reached down and I just looked at them and said, hello. And they all just started waving.
That's so cool.
And he goes, they're waving at you. I said, I know they're waving at me. And then I actually showed some of my apprentices just this year a exercise on how to connect with the plant in that way. And when you do have that kind of relationship with them, they start to talk back. I mean, they were very amazed. Wow, it's really waving. They're alive. They're waving to us.
I mean, I think that's something that I get, like, not frustrated probably, but just a little bit like plants do have consciousness. And I think there's a, we extend our kind of respect to maybe the animal kingdom because they're easier for us to relate to. But I think we often forget that, everything on this planet does, but the plants, the rocks. I don't know, have you read Stephen Harrod Buna's books? Do you know who he is?
Yes.
Yeah.
We do have it. My husband actually read his book.
Yeah, well, he speaks a lot to that, and it's something, their books we recommend people get a hold of if they're interested, because he kind of speaks about how to connect to plants and has exercises. And like you say, I think, sometimes it's just being open to that possibility that maybe they do want to share and connect with us. In the Taoist tradition, I don't know if there's anything in the Mayan tradition, but there's something called tree chi, where you basically develop a relationship with a tree and they help to, it's basically like how when we exhale, the tree benefits, and when we inhale, we benefit, and the tree's producing that.
Yeah.
So similar with energy. So we learn to befriend a tree, we ask their permission, and then we use them to clean our energy, and they get to take our negative energy and benefit. So that's a beautiful practice that I've been doing for probably 5 or 6 years now. And yeah, it's really, I have a tree friend, so it's like, this is my friend.
Yeah.
we get to know each other, and yeah, it sounds funny to talk about, but it's really beautiful practice. Yeah, very happy.
I agree. And yes, my teachers, Mayan and other, teach to have those relationships with the plants, to have those kinds of relationships, and introducing yourself and asking for medicine. And when you give your offering, you don't actually take that plant that you offer to, but you look for another one. And when you're entering into a sacred area, which to me mostly every time is a sacred area. I mean, I'm sitting here looking in this parking lot beforehand, and I'm looking at these trees going, wonderful, but every time having those relationships where you introduce yourself and you say, it's me, it's Laura, I'm coming in, and I'm looking for medicine. Will you reveal yourself to me? Is it okay if I get that? And you will find that sometimes it takes a while for them to reveal themselves to you, and sometimes you don't get it the first time you go. Sometimes you're not supposed to. Really tuning in to what the environment, what the earth, what those individual plants are saying to you. For instance, Osha is a very sacred plant here, and it's people really shouldn't be over harvesting and all of that. So when we do go, if we go, we harvest maybe 2 roots a year, kind of. But I went to a new area, and I hadn't gone for Osha before. And we went in there and we asked for Osha. We did a journey ahead of time and went and asked for her to reveal herself. And it took almost an hour before we could see the plant. And once we did, we noticed it was everywhere in front of us the whole time. I couldn't until it's over there and it's over there too. And why did we not see this last time? I can't believe it's here. I mean, it's amazing. It's magical. It's truly magical when you're allowed to receive the medicine.
Well, it's funny too, because I think you really have to earn it sometimes. And I think, it's funny. I remember, because I grew up in the tropics, so I really identify those plants really easily. And it was funny taking my partner up there for the first time, because he was like, it's just a wall of green. But once you start to tune in, you sort of, things start to reveal. And now I can, now I can walk through and he'll sort of start to, oh, that's jumping out at me, and there's a native ginger over there, and let's go and get some plums. And, he knows where all the fruits are. But it takes, takes a little while sometimes to develop that awareness. And also, like you said, I think I had a beautiful workshop I went to a couple of weeks back, but one of the presenters was saying that he was for 20 years, he kept returning to this place and asking for the message to be revealed. And he was like, I know there's something here, but I don't know what it is. And yeah, it literally took 20 years before he got the message. So I was like, that's pretty weird. I don't know if I'd have that kind of discipline. But yeah, I thought that was a really beautiful story, because it just, kind of put for me into perspective that, like, we really have this desire for instant gratification, I think, and some of these things take time. It's like a friend. It takes time to make friends with someone. It takes time to get to know them really well, and that we expect a plant to just reveal its magic to us straight away is a little bit maybe a little bit presumptuous. So.
I think so, and then thinking about going and just taking a pill, whether it's herbal or whatever, are you really receiving the medicine? What are you taking in, and thinking about your healing in that respect too. What is your connection to your healing, to your body? If we are just taking a pill. Now, some things we do need to take, of course, but when you're looking at even the common cold and looking at what you need to take, sometimes a plant comes out to you and says, oh, you should put this in the formula, but it doesn't make sense. I mean, in your head, it doesn't make, that's not really for a cough, but it's what's needed. It's what's needed. And that plant has so much more than just 1 or 2 constituents involved. When the medicine is revealed to you and you do have that relationship with those plants, the spirit of the plant still is in the medicine. So maybe it's that plant spirit medicine that they need, not just the constituents that lie in its cell wall.
I bloody love that so much, because we work with tonic herbs and medicinal mushrooms. We get so many people wanting to know what percentage of beta glucans and we're like, no offense, guys, but that's not what we do. Like, we don't sell polysaccharide powder. We sell, like reishi. It's like for me, reishi is like my grandma. She's like, I take her on meditation retreats and she helps me, understand my learnings, and she's like this mentor and this kind of like spiritual guide, and she kind of hugs me and she stops me from like, being in my own bullshit. And it's like, that's what reishi does. But it's like, oh, okay, yeah, she has triterpenes and, like 800 medicinal compounds. But it's like, I don't like that stuff. Definitely does something, obviously, but on a, like, the relationship is so much more different now than when I started, which, you know, was to like support my gut health, you know. But I think these things reveal themselves in time, but it comes down, I think, to intention. And, you know, we like something that we work with a lot is if a client comes to us and they have a really strong draw to a specific herb, we don't ever, like, no matter what our wisdom or our teaching or our learning might be, we always defer to the person's intuition, because, you know, I do think there's a reason we're drawn to certain things. And is that something you see and kind of work with as well? Or?
Yes. I typically try to always involve whoever I'm working with in their healing, of course, and asking them, well, what do you feel about this formula? What do you feel about this herb? Sometimes I'll have them smell their medicine first. Which plant smells the best to you? You know, that's what Cascade Anderson Geller, she used to teach that. She that's how she started her women's health class, with just about 8 jars of herbs on the table, none of them labeled. And she said, all right, come on up, everybody. Let's smell this plant. Which one smells the best to you? And that's the one that we would work with. I mean, there's something so beautiful too about working with with one instead of a formula. Everyone's looking for the formula, looking for that magic formula. Mm-hmm. And yes, of course, we need to use formulas. But when I am working with clients, I do try to go simple at first, depending on what we're working with. I mean, it's never just one thing that we're working on, right? Mm. But I don't want to go overboard with formulas or complicated things, getting people to do complicated things. I typically have someone choose 1 or 2 things they can incorporate into their life. And unless they're willing to or need to go on a strict food diet or something like that, I don't take away, I add. Knowing that as the body heals and as you want to heal and be healthier, you will drop away.
Things fall away.
Sugar that you've been eating, yes, because you need it to fulfill that sweet part in you. Mm-hmm. You know, right? Like in nurturing that earth part in you. I think that a lot of our food really does, you know, come around to fulfilling things that we're not getting. And so once we do find a balance with that and regain our power, I mean, that's how I see so much of that healing too, is around self-power and like regaining that power again, that feeling, that sense of, oh, it's my life. Mm-hmm. I'm in control of my life. You know, I can do it if I want to.
Well, that's what I find with like these, you know, more, I guess, ancient practices like herbalism and massage and steams, and they come from the people, and they're very decentralized, and they're very like kind of personal and local. And I think when you start to, I mean, I was just, you know, talking to someone the other day, and I haven't, you know, like anything that comes my way at this point in my life, I'm able to deal with on my own health-wise, you know, and that's a really empowering kind of thing to feel. And I'm not saying I'll never have to see a doctor or something, and I'm not against that, but it's just, you know, really nice to, and I have a child, and I'm confident and capable in dealing with the things that come my way with her again at this stage. Let's, you know, I'm not going to try and say nothing will ever happen, but, you know, I think it's really, you know, even just that little bit of autonomy and sovereignty. I mean, it's a foundational philosophy of my partner and my lives, is like health sovereignty and that ability to take responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
But like you say, that means acknowledging that there's a reason that all these, you know, that we're drawn to certain foods or flavors, you know, and I love that about TCM. Certainly is where I learned it in Ayurveda, but I feel like TCM is more elegant for me in terms of how it understands those things. And yeah, just that, you know, these things point to kind of maybe energy deficiencies in channels, and it's as simple as, like you say, like bringing in the things that nourish and restore, and then the bad habits drop away, you know. So I think, yeah, that's such a powerful, I think such a powerful message for people, I suppose, is like this exploration, which may seem like it's just, you know, not going anywhere sometimes. It kind of leads us to a point where we start to know ourselves so intimately that we, you know, we can become our own healers, or, you know, which means I think it's really useful to use a practitioner or someone as a reference point, because that's certainly, like I'll still see, you know, people from time to time and just get a sense of like, are they picking up something that I'm missing because of my prejudice or my bias, you know? And I think, you know, that's the role of the healer or the kind of, you know, therapist, is to provide some perspective and some space. And I know, you know, you would have seen Miss Beatrice a lot. Like, were you getting treatments just in general, or were you getting them for like specific issues, or when you
like
went?
when I was,
Yeah.
when I was her, well, when I initially met her, I was in herb school. I think it was like 2001 or 2002. And I stayed after. It was like an extra class you could take. And I mean, I saw what she did, and how she was massaging and what she was teaching. And I just like, wow. I mean, I didn't exactly go to her because I had an ailment. I have a sluggish liver. I always have kind of issues going on with my liver. And so it tends to manifest and show up. I always know how healthy my liver is by how much PMS I have, or cramping or something. So I did have those issues, but I truly started seeing her because I was introduced to her class and went, well, I'm just going to start doing this. I need to be around her. I want to learn more. So, and then anytime she was in town or visiting, I would go and have a treatment with her. And then Ann Drucker was the woman who kind of sponsored her in this area and brought her here, and actually still does visit her family now and helps her family quite a bit still. She's been gone about 5 years now. And then I would see just other women in the area, because you start to get into that community, you know, and would have massages by older students and people who had been working with her for a while. So it wasn't because I had an issue.
So more in the
her.
name of self-care kind of thing, and
Yes,
community. Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's a
was.
really important like message, is that you don't have to do these things when you're sick as well, because you know, that's
no, yeah. I mean, for me, I'm always so curious and interested in how is this person doing it? What are they doing? You know, what's working? And I'm always drawn to the more spiritual, the more emotional work. And so if something is incorporating that and it really resonates with me, I just devour it. I just have to go and experience it. So I love getting treatments. I think I have an addiction to it almost, just because it's so interesting to me to go and experience all these modalities. There's just an infinite number, right? And then there's just an infinite number of types of people doing them. So the energies are always different. And sometimes I see someone and it's not a good fit. And, you know, I've been injured a couple times, seeing new people or who they're new, and they're like, can I practice on you? I'm like, sure. And then I'm like sick for a little bit or something like that. So, and that's okay. I think that's a part of learning to be a healer is get sick and you hurt yourself and you burn yourself and you do all these crazy things. As long as you're doing them to yourself or your close friends, that'll forgive you. while you're in the learning phase of stuff, it's okay. Because it's better, in the beginning. That's why I burnt myself with lemon essential oil in the shower, and
Oh yeah.
made cayenne pepper pills and took those. I ran out naked. I was so hot. I laid in the snow. I mean, there was just all this crazy stuff that I've done.
Yeah, I wonder, because we talked a little bit about steaming at the beginning, but I mean, speaking of burning, I suppose, but it's kind of a good segue, because I started steaming after your workshop. I was probably 10 months postpartum, I think. But I didn't get my period back till I stopped breastfeeding, which was about 18 months. So I just did a few kind of gentle ones to test the waters. And then once my period returned, I was doing them really regularly. And my first few periods were really heavy, and I was a little bit like, okay. But then I've just literally had the most perfect cycle, and I still do them just for maintenance and pleasure, But I thought that was such an interesting and simple technique, and I loved how you taught it, because it was so kind of accessible. But I know you use it a lot in your practice as well. But is that something you give people as homework? It's sort of as well as the self-massage? Yeah.
Yes, vaginal steaming is it's one of those self-care tools that we do have access to, that anyone can do, for themselves at home with a pot in their toilet or with a 5-gallon bucket. And I know that's not that comfortable, but
it works.
I've made them with plant stands, using a plant stand and the toilet seat, and just tying the toilet seat to the plant stand. I mean, there's lots of ways
creative ways.
You can get really creative with it, and make it your own. So you can steam in your bedroom, or somewhere that you feel comfortable.
Privacy.
Yeah, because you can make them that comfortable. You can make it to where it's not too hot, and you're using, calendula and rose and lavender and sage and things that just smell so wonderful, and also so very healing to your tissue, and depending on what's going on and how you're feeling, and using, I mean, you can use basil, you can use oregano, those are more for antibacterial, antimicrobial, if you have something going on, and even if you have a UTI going on, using it to help pee. It really takes the pain away. It really helps, so you can go to the bathroom, and so utilizing steam not just as self-care, but also when you have an issue going on, and you need to administer some herbs very gently. But I wouldn't recommend using a steam directly postpartum. I would wait about a month or so postpartum, and then, of course, doing your sitz bath first to help really heal the tissue.
Yeah, the perineum. Do you, I mean, because I definitely noticed my flow increased and then dropped off. And, my cycle's been really regular ever since I was pretty lucky. I don't think I had much going on, but I remember you mentioning that you had like a pooch on your tummy and it went away after steaming, and I thought that was a really interesting just concept for people, is about the cleansing aspect of menstruation. I don't know if you can speak a little to that and your experience with that, and why these kinds of things are helpful.
So my formal vaginal steaming class was actually done with Dr. Arvigo, and she taught that your uterus can hold on to old blood. So when we start our moon, and there's dark blood, brick dark red, brown blood, that's old blood from previous times, that the circulation isn't moving, and it's just not getting out of our womb. Maybe the uterus is tilted, and it can build up in there. And then again too, what are we holding in there, right? What are we for me, and my time when I had the pooch, for me, it was about, I'd been holding on to so much pain from a previous love loss that I just couldn't let it go. And I physically was actually creating a tension in my vagina. I was holding it. I was holding down there. I didn't even realize I was doing this until I started to pay attention, and steaming actually did help soften. But, and then also, Rosita Arvigo talked about if you've had children sometimes too, because the uterus kind of expands and then comes back, you do have some excess old blood, and she's like, almost every time. Just know that you are. So when you start bleeding, sometimes in the beginning, you have a lot come out. She said, and things may come out. Like, don't be scared of this stuff coming out, like stuff like chunks, long stringy things. I mean, she was just going on and on. She's like, but don't be afraid. And that actually did happen with me. And I didn't have a child, but I had miscarriages. And again, I just had so much I was holding on to. And after about my third month is when I literally gave birth kind of to what I needed to release. And it was a lot of blood. I was bleeding very heavily. And instead of feeling tired, I felt revitalized, because it was all old, stagnant blood. It wasn't fresh. It wasn't coming off of my uterus. I wasn't bleeding. It was old blood that had been stuck in my womb. And it really changed a lot for me. After that, I had like a soul retrieval. I was retrieving this piece of my heart, because I was just about to get in a relationship with my husband. And I could see all of that now, what all of that transition was, and what all that healing that was happening. So it was the physical part with the emotional part and the spiritual part really coming in and allowing me to let go of the old to let in the new.
That's a really beautiful story. And I think I think when we can just trust our bodies, because it can be daunting to see a lot of blood move through us. And especially if there's bits, like you say. I mean, that was certainly the first bleed I had. That was my experience, and I was a little bit like, whew. But yeah, like you said, there was also a sense of lightness, and I felt generally very strong and well through that time, so I didn't sort of worry about it. And my next cycle was back to its normal pre-birth kind of state. So, but do you have like in terms of a self-care practice, would you just say you do it, once a month, or is it something you do regularly, or what's your kind of timing and stuff like that?
Right. So with my self-care practice, I do try to steam, but I don't get to that often. And, I can use having children as an excuse. I can use life as an excuse. I'm just tired. That's what a lot of it comes down to. I'm older now, I'm just tired. And, but I do still try to honor my moon time as my sacred time. So if I don't get to steam, then I do use a moon stone, which is a warm stone on my belly, or massage, or hot bath, and massaging in that way. Even if I just get to light a candle and honor where I'm at during that time. And if I don't have the ability to take a day to really do what I want to do that self-care, I'll at least light a candle and hide in the bathroom for 20 minutes and set my intention. Knowing that I've planted those seeds helps me feel like that I'm still working on who I am. I'm still on my path as a practitioner, as a woman who wants to connect with other women and my cycles and the earth, and keeping my focus on love, compassion, coming back to myself, finding those answers again. And every month I'm reminded of that. So that's kind of my self-care.
That's beautiful. I'm really passionate about redefining that it isn't about the external thing. It's more about our inner kind of relationship with ourselves, I suppose. And like, I really love that you said that. Like, it is about those moments, or those, especially when you do have children, because it is moments. It's not like chunks of time anymore. Where you really just can lean into what that acknowledgement of self, and like you say, your journey. So, and I'd also like to give the bathroom a shout out for being a special place where mothers can go sometimes to be alone.
It's true. Sometimes it's the only place with a lock on the door,
We don't actually have a lock on ours, and my toddler now knows how to open doors, so I'm doomed for a while. I actually had a tantrum the other day because I was trying to go to the toilet and she was like sticking her hands in the bowl, and I was like, just
I just need to go. I
know.
But I actually have little altars set up all around my house as reminders, and I do one in the bathroom. I have just little baby altars set up. I have them in the kitchen. Well, the kitchen's my favorite place.
Yeah,
so I
sacred
have
space.
two in the kitchen, and and then we have our meditation room, and then I have a little altar in the bathroom, and just places.
Well, I think that was something I really took on after I had my daughter, was like making our bathroom beautiful, because it is that place I'll run to sometimes for a minute. And I think it's really nice. I've got plants in there and like candles and incense, and it's just these little crystals, it's this little space where I'm like, oh, it's nice to be in here and spend some time. And that's where I do my steams. I kind of use the toilet the way you showed us, and I think it's a nice place for me to hang out for a little while and to spend some time. So, like, do you recommend people just do the steams before their periods as the best time? Is that kind of like to stimulate anything that needs to move, or is it better through the cycle, or what do you think?
I do recommend doing your steam the week before you get your moon. So even if you're not really concentrating on your cycle, you kind of know your moon time's coming, it's time to do a steam. So yes, I do recommend that. And then especially too, like, your moon's a little late, definitely steam. If you're having a hard time starting to bleed, definitely steam. Like you're spotting a little bit. I mean, it really does help. It makes a world of a difference. A little bit of that steam, because the steam, the volatile oil on the plant will go through the cervix. The steam will bring everything and penetrate into the whole cavity, the whole pelvic cavity. So steaming is so beneficial, because you are administering direct medicine. It's not just, even if you were to do just water, it'd be fine, but the plants they do so much to help.
Yeah, and we're talking fresh and dried herbs, not oils. I just want to make sure that's clear, because essential oils are really strong. They can burn, very sensitive skin. Yes, yeah.
So. Yes. Never use I do not recommend using essential oils. Fresh, yes. Dried, of course. And more fresh if you are going to use fresh. Plants, you want to use almost twice as much.
Yep. Yeah, same with teas and things.
Right.
Okay, well, I had one more question, but my brain has lost it. It's 5 a.m. here, so I'm amazed my brain's functioning at all, really. I did want to, I know there'll be people that want to connect with you, and unfortunately you are in the United States, but
Yes.
I mean, I would love to maybe see if we can get you out here one day. Let's work on that. But yeah, if people do want to reach out to you, I'll post your website and things on our show notes. But is there any other, I know you had a retreat coming up. Is that soon or?
We just did a retreat.
Oh, you just
actually.
did the retreat. Yeah.
And I just taught about plant spirit journeying and how to connect with the plants in that way. And I don't have anything really coming up. I may have something in Idaho in the spring. I'm not sure. But as I do things, I do post them on my website and. Yeah.
And do you do any consultations over Skype, or is it mostly in person?
I do consultations over Skype, yes.
Okay, cool.
So many people do want and need that herbal piece, that herbal advice. And so I will do that, and even just showing women how to self-care, massage, or even to steam, really. Just teaching how to do that is so vital. So yes, I do Skype.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really aware that you have a life out there, so get back to it. But I wanted to thank you so much for making the time and just sharing your wisdom. It was really beautiful for me to learn that, was it nearly 2 years ago now? And so thank you so much. It's been so nice talking to you.
Yeah, nice talking to you too. Thank you.
All right, and we'll catch up soon. Bye, Laura.
Okay, bye.